¿A qué hora ya
¿Ya
podemos?
vamos a empezar o no?
Yo creo que ya.
Ustedes me dicen.
Entonces,
Ya un par de minutos
presentar a-
para que terminen todas las personas, 6 apenas. Un par de minutos para la hora.
Pero
Ok.
sí quisiera yo y ves, Alfonso, nada más que nos dejen estar con el Zoom. Ahorita yo me puedo salir de aquí.
Está ya.
Ahorita que salga,
Listo, esto ya está, ya la controlo desde allá. Ya nada más regresemos al Zoom.
Ah,
No te preocupes. Ahí
está.
Perfecto.
exacto.
Y tú vas a estar aceptando, ¿verdad?
Sí,
Perfecto.
yo me
Entonces,
encargo.
ya ustedes nada más me dicen en el momento que ya me pueden.
You want?
Are we ready? David, so it's fine that you disappear after the presentation.
Sí.
You
No,
mean-
¿me va a hacer aquí pasa? Vamos, ¿no más fácil acá?
No.
No.
Fíjate aquí.
¿Ven cómo podemos?
Ok.
Por
Bueno,
ejemplo,
¿me quieres más a mí?
ver.
¿Te sientes más a gusto conmigo, afecta?
¿Podemos?
Ah,
No, que yo decía que me iba a hacer en la otra, pero me puedo hacer aquí.
aquí está bien. Claro, después tú puedes decir, I leave you the floor, así muy elegante y ya te pones. Voy a dar entrada a alguien de...
So there is the problem. I cannot pass the slides.
¿Por qué?
We are
Sí se puede.
It's working.
to.
No,
You have
no.
to click on the
Mhm,
slide
mhm.
and then.
No, it's
Okay.
It's working
No?
fine.
Are we ready?
Uh-huh.
¿Están listos para salir a la cámara? ¿Están peinados? Todo lo demás. Are we ready? 3, 2, empecemos.
Very live.
You guys have to look at the comments. Otherwise, everyone will. I'm sorry about the sound, but
It's all right.
It will-
It doesn't matter.
on and off.
No to wait 2 minutes.
Ya estamos en vivo.
Ah, no,
Sí.
what?
But don't worry.
O sea, lo que digan ya está en
Oh,
vivo.
whichever you want.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
2:06. So whichever you want. No, what I'm doing. Oh. What do you? Wait, we have 22 people. 20. So I count them.
Sound and video is perfect, so we can start. Okay. Muy buenas noches a todas y todos. Good night, everyone. Es un gusto que nos acompañen aquí el día de hoy, quienes nos están acompañando en la sala, pero también quienes ven la transmisión en línea o que van a ver la grabación otro día. Es un gusto, but it's also a honor to welcome Alisson Brandemarte. He is a master student at Universidade Federal da Fronteira Sul in Brazil. He's also a visitor at the Instituto Nacional de Psiquiatría aquí en México. And he's gonna be our speaker in the suffering seminar with the talk Consciousness in the Special Case of Chronic Pain Experience, a new non-reductionist neurocomputational account. So, Alisson, thanks, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, David. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much to everyone, especially to Atocha and to David. So, Atocha asked me to introduce myself really quickly, so I might do this. So my basic education is philosophy. I come from philosophy originally, but in the meantime, I have kind of gone to neurosciences as well. So basically, I am in the middle of them, and well, this is it. So let's start basically. So this is basically the content that I'm going to pass through. firstly, I'm going to introduce to you a new kind of account, a non-reductionist account, which I call post-eliminative materialism, or just post-eliminativism, basically it. And then I will talk about the issue of studying consciousness through disorders, or more specifically, neurological disorders. And in this case, chronic pain, of course. Those are basically the most philosophical parts of the presentation. And then I'll pass to the neuroscientific ones, which are basically the talking about the concepts of interception and allostasis in chronic pain. And then we will go to the Bayesian model of chronic pain, which is basically a neurocomputational model to simulate what is going on in a patient with chronic pain. And then we will conclude everything and draw the limitations. So firstly, post-eliminative materialism. This is the name that I got for this account. But to understand this account, we need to understand better what is eliminative materialism. So for this, I will introduce you the churchlands, and it is interesting to talk about them because most of the time they are misunderstood. So this is an issue in analytic philosophy. Most of the time, reductionism is kind of presented as something like a naive physicalism, which is not the case if you actually study the books of the churchlands, which were responsible for eliminative materialism. You can actually come to the conclusion that this is not the case. They are not naive physicalists or something like that. So who are Patricia Churchland and Paul Churchland? Who are the Churchlands? So they are basically Canadian neuroscientists and philosophers, analytic philosophers. They come from a tradition of analytic philosophy. And also they are normally considered as the founders both of eliminative materialism and neurophilosophy. So Patricia Churchland founded, this is the common view, neurophilosophy in 1986. And this is something that I actually don't think is the case. It is kind of tricky to argue this because indeed she's the founder of the book. She published the book Neurophilosophy, but it is not possible to understand neurophilosophy without taking into account the contributions of Paul Churchland. For understanding Paul Churchland, you cannot simply dismiss the contributions of Patricia. And this is in their own words. This is something that they say, they affirm this. So let us see two quotes that are very symbolic for this. Patricia Churchland in Neurophilosophy, in the book, says in the preface, among philosophers, my first and greatest debt is to Paul Churchland. And she basically passes to continue saying that, well, I just went to neurosciences because of Paul Churchland. This is what she's saying. So it is kind of tricky to argue that she was solely the founder of neurophilosophy if the prefix neuro is only possible because of Paul Churchland. It doesn't make much sense, I think. And Paul Churchland also says, after 25 years of affection and collaboration, I often feel we have become the left and right hemispheres of a single brain. And this is not only one quote that I took from a random text or article. This is present in all their texts, in all their books. They constantly quote each other in a very deep sense. So these are just two examples, but there are, of course, a lot more. Okay, so what is not reductionism? This is the point here. Nordhoff, which is who is a neurophilosopher, is normally considered as the symbol of non-reductionism in neurophilosophy, or as some people say, non-reductionist neurophilosophy. Okay, so what does Nordhoff think of the churchmen, of the founders? What does he think that is eliminative materialism? So he says the churchmen argue that there is no need anymore for any mental concepts. So this is key, no need anymore for any mental concepts. One may summarize their convictions in the following way: throw overboard the mental concepts and replace them with the neural concepts of the brain. We hear them shouting, there is no mind, there is only the brain, is their claim. So this kind of says that while the churchlings are defending a kind of naive physicalism, let us disconsider mental concepts and let us just keep with the brain. But what the churchlings' neurophilosophy actually is something a little bit more deep. So let us see how Patricia Churchland considers her own neurophilosophy in 200 and 2022. So she says, although I have always emphasized that understanding neuroscience was necessary to understand the mind, some philosophers, like Nordhoff, this is what I'm saying, read me as saying neuroscience was both necessary and sufficient. Necessary and sufficient. So neuroscience is all that we need. And here Patricia is saying, no, I did not argue this. This was a poorly disguised straw man designed to make the project look extreme and unproductive. So this is her saying, well, this is not what I argue. Neurophilosophy is not a kind of naive physicalist that doesn't take into account mental concepts. It is something much more deep. So what is actually neurophilosophy or eliminative materialism? So here is something interesting. They kind of separate their contribution in two. First, the form, and second, the substance. So both churchlings' eliminative materialism is the form of their philosophy, while neurophilosophy is the substance, is what gives eliminative materialism a kind of content. So what is the form? What is the eliminative materialism? Churchland argues or summarizes eliminative materialism in three theses. This is just a rational, as he says. So the logical basis of it. So the first thesis is folk psychology is a theory. Folk psychology is basically a concept that talks about the mental concepts, okay? So the mental concepts, the mentalist vocabulary, such as mind, emotions, thought, and all those things, memory could be also considered as folk psychology, is a theory. So it is not as the world is in a very inherent way. It is just a theory that may be false. And this is the second thesis. The second thesis says, folk psychology, FP, is a radically false theory. So what does this mean? This is very tricky because here it is not, he's not defending a naive physicalism. I have to emphasize this so many times. What he's saying is basically that with a co-evolution of neurosciences and psychologies and philosophies and other kind of disciplines, we can achieve a new theory of how we work, a new theory. So it is based not on a reduction, not on eliminative mental concepts, but actually on converging them and putting them together. This is tricky. because you may actually misunderstood the church ones as saying, well, they're just eliminating everything related to the mind, but this is not the point. They are trying to create a unified theory. This is what is on the subtitle of neurophilosophy. Neurophilosophy toward a unified theory of mind-brain. So it is unified. It is not reducted or something like that. Okay, so folk psychology is a radically false theory because what we need is a unified theory, not just a physicalist or, let's say, a mentalist theory of how we work. So we need to overcome it because it's radically false. This is the point. But how can we actually overcome this? And this is where neurophilosophy actually is introduced. So the substance is this unified theory. What actually gives content to this theory, what makes it more consistent in some way, is that it is fulfilled with a unified theory. And this is why we can just, well, eliminate psychology and get a new theory that is unified and better, more precise. This is the point. So neurophilosophy is basically a convergent, or as they argue, co-evolutionary approach. Co-evolution, convergence, those are all concepts that are related to neurophilosophy. Okay. So where does post-eliminative materialism come? Now, okay, so non-reductionism is on one point, one extreme, and eliminative materialism is on the other side of it. And what is in the middle is this post-eliminative materialism. So here I do not defend Nordhoff's approach of non-reductionism. The title says a new non-reductionist approach of my presentation, but it's not non-reductionism. It is this post-eliminative materialism. Why? Because I do not agree with the interpretation from Nordhoff and other non-reductionists in relation to the church ones in their neurophilosophy. So the hermeneutic corrections that I just talked about, just one of them, of course, this is something that makes my position a little bit different from non-reductionism. This is what separates me from non-reductionism. And what separates me from eliminative materialism is that issue of partial elimination. Okay, so the hermeneutic corrections. Let me just drink some water. Okay, so hermeneutic corrections. The first one is that the church ones are not reductionists, but eliminativists. What this means is what I just argued. So they are not reducing the mind in a naive sense. They are actually thinking of something more deep. The second correction, eliminative materialism is not a naive physicalist. As I said, it is just a continuation of the same thesis. Okay, and the third one, neurophilosophy is indeed a co-evolutionary approach. Okay, so this person here, Philip Clark, in 2021, wrongly affirmed that the church ones are not kind of defending a co-evolutionary approach. This is an issue because it is wrong. And Nordhoff also says, here I want to have a new theory that is co-evolutionary, that puts neurosciences and psychologists together. But this is exactly what the church ones are also saying. And this kind of idea that is not new is only possible because of the misinterpretation of the church ones. So we need to consider neurophilosophy as a co-evolutionary approach. Okay, and what separates me from eliminative materialism? This is one. here we have the issue of partial unification. So Patricia Churchland and also Paul Churchland, both of them, they think that in neurophilosophy, there are no limits. The limits between the disciplines, the limits between neurosciences and philosophies and psychologists basically disappear. This is the point in neurophilosophy. They affirm this. But here I do not think this is correct. I think that when you try to make a co-evolution, to put philosophy and neuroscience together, you need to kind of limit philosophy. You need to accept some presuppositions. You need to accept some things that constrain philosophy to something. When you say that we need a co-evolution, you are already kind of putting a limit. So neurophilosophies are actually partially unified theories. What this means is also tricky, but they do reveal us something new about the mind. So I think that we need a convergence. We do need a convergence of neurosciences and philosophies, but this does not mean that we can, well, eliminate all philosophy or all neuroscience. And here, what I mean by philosophy is philosophy of mind or philosophy of science. We cannot eliminate all of it. We cannot substitute all of it through neurophilosophy. But it is actually something that we need to make, because putting the theories together, by putting the theories together, you get something new, a new result. You know something that you didn't know before. Okay, so the justification here of this thesis is there are things that can only be understood within. Example, the body-brain world in interaction, but they are still based on simplifications or constraints, as I said. For example, Patricia admits that when the founders of the artificial neural networks were doing this kind of artificial intelligence, they needed to constrain the neural networks to biology. You cannot make neural networks, artificial neural networks, without considering the biological constraints of it, of how we work, of how the brain works. Otherwise, it is purely computational. So there's a limit. And she also says, when making this convergence, there is a simplification of how we work. That's okay. Of how we work. Okay. The second thesis, and the last one, is the thesis of partial displacement. Okay, so I do think that in some cases we can eliminate some folk psychology. This is something. But in other cases, we cannot. We are not, well, it is not sound to argue that we can eliminate something that we don't have a better theory to substitute it or to eliminate it. I do think that. So, but in some cases, it's actually something desirable. For instance, in a recent article, I have argued that in the case of schizophrenia, you may actually eliminate the concept of thought, which is central to schizophrenia, or Alisson in the historical view of psychiatry. So Kaplan, for instance, divides the mental, or how does he says, the depressive manischen Irrsein. This is like a concept in German that means like bipolar disorder, humor disorder in general, like depression, and he separates it from the concept of thought disorders or schizophrenia. Of course, it was not called schizophrenia. This was only after when Bloyle, disciple of him, created the concept. But this is not the point here. What gives this kind of idea of partial displacement a substance? what justifies that we can, for some cases, for some mental concepts, we can eliminate them by a convergent theory, by a neurophilosophy, and in other cases you cannot. This is based basically on the idea or the thesis of differential metaphysics. So this physicist, Henrik Walter, in 1999, sorry, he defended this thesis of differential metaphysics. What is this thesis about? So this thesis is basically defined as, or summarized in the idea that for different mental processes, you can have different metaphysics. And here metaphysics means the relation between the brain and the mind. So for instance, he says, for the concept of thought, you may defend a kind of dualism, while for the concept of, I don't know, emotions, you can defend a eliminated materialism. So it is a kind of relativism in some sense. And this is the point. So different metaphysics for different mental processes, different relations between brain and mind to different mental processes. And processes, he says, well, we can substitute this term by, I don't know, mental substance or something like that, like mental properties, mental whatever. Okay, so no single solution, this is my idea, no single solution to the mind-brain problem. Not only my idea, but actually originally from Henrik Walter, of course. Okay, so this is the point. Okay, just to summarize and my position is in the middle of non-reductionism and eliminated materialism. What separates post-eliminated materialism from non-reductionism is the hermeneutic corrections, and to the other position, to eliminated materialism, what separates it from my position is the partial elimination thesis. Okay, so this first part of my presentation was really long in some sense, but the other parts are a little bit more quick, okay? And with a little bit, I mean a lot more. Okay, so to study consciousness in the specific context of pain, to apply this kind of position that I defend, it is interesting to recall the intuition of Francisco Pellicer, who is right now watching us. Okay, so in this chapter 8, he defends of a book from Ramon de la Fuente Muniz, he defends the idea that we can study consciousness through this sensorial modality that we name pain. So the idea here of Pellicer is we can study consciousness by studying the neuroscience of pain. This is the point. So thus, how could we make a new neurophilosophy of consciousness in chronic pain? Okay, so the basis here is the temporary spatial theory of consciousness. Here, I will step into neuroscience a little bit more, okay, but not so much. Just in the next part, we'll go really deep and really neuroscientific. Okay, so Nordhoff's relational turn. What does this mean? This is something that I identified in Nordhoff's approach. He basically tries to make a soft solution to the mind-brain problem, as he says, a soft solution. And he does this by substituting the problem, the mind-brain problem, by the world-brain body problem. This is the point here. Okay. And he adopts a kind of reversal methodology, in the sense that he does not start his investigation with the mind, but actually from the brain. And in the book of 2016, he goes from the disordered brain to the healthy mind. So he basically does a kind of neurophilosophy of mind-brain disorders. This is something not new, okay? Some people think that this is new, but it is not new. Patricia wrote a book like, I don't know, something like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, in relation to Alzheimer's disease, okay? So it's not something new, but his approach is a little bit, actually much curious, to say the very least. Okay, so the problem here, by basing by putting the basis of my investigation on this, is that he does not make any account of pain, neither of pain nor of chronic pain. So he doesn't talk about pain. This is the problem. Okay. And maybe you could argue that the originality of our investigation, not just mine, but also of Yuri and the other collaborators, is that we are applying Nordhoff's investigation to the issue of pain. And not only of pain, but also of chronic pain, in the special case of chronic pain. This is something normally not studied, not taken into account in philosophy. In pure, so to speak, philosophy of mind, we do have some accounts of pain, but not of chronic pain. And it is not the same. It is a little bit different, to say the very least. Okay, so he makes a separation between what he calls neuro predispositions of consciousness, NPC, and neurocorrelates of consciousness. So the neurocorrelates say, these are the conditions under which we have necessary and sufficient criteria for saying, okay, consciousness is emerged. This is sufficient to make consciousness emerge. And the predispositions on the other side say, we have necessary, but not yet sufficient conditions under which consciousness emerges. Okay, so it is basically the basis under which chronic pain experience can emerge, in the sense. So there's a physical conditions under which chronic pain can arise. This is the point. In other physical conditions, it doesn't arise. But of course, when those predispositions are not, when they are present, it doesn't mean that chronic pain is present there. So what I'm going to talk about here are the neuro predispositions of consciousness. I'll not basically say what is necessary and sufficient for chronic pain to arise, okay? It is a mystery yet to be uncovered, okay? So in the context of NPC, of the neuro predispositions of consciousness, we have a temporal spatial structure, okay? So it is divided in the spatial structure and the temporal structure. The spatial structure is related not only to this triple network model, as I put, but also to one other network, okay? And here the natural network, not an artificial one. Okay, so what is this triple network model, and why did I put the triple network model and not a kind of, I don't know, four network model or something like that? There's an article which puts this triple network model together with the symptomatology of chronic pain. So this is why I didn't include the last one, okay? But but afterwards, I will return to the other network, which is basically the sensorial motor network, okay? Okay, so the three networks here. First, the salience network, which is responsible for behaviorally relevant codification. Okay, so when you when you have like a stimuli coming from the environment, you codify this stimuli. This passes through your peripheric nervous system, and it goes to the certain central nervous system where it is interpreted. Okay, so this is basically the signals network, okay, in very simple terms, okay? And this is important for adapting the organism for behaving, basically, okay? The auto network is the default mode network, which is normally considered as the network of the self in some sense, or of the self, of self-representation. And the third one is the central executive network, which is responsible for action and for planning and other things like that. So in chronic pain, you have a different kind of you have a noisy or a dysfunctional, in some sense, central executive network. There are dysfunctions in all those three networks. So this is why planning how the person acts and other things like that are different in the kind of in the special case of chronic pain. So the second one, the temporary structure, is related to neural timescales. This idea of neural timescales can be basically explained through the idea that in our brain or organism, there are different timescales, as the theory says. There are different temporalities. So, for instance, you can have a specific kind of temporality for the circadian system, and at the same time, you have a different kind of temporality for, I don't know, planning or for memory. And this is very interesting because if you take into account the difference between the artificial neural networks, that is the straightforward neural network, this kind of neural network is very, as the name says, direct, straightforward. It is not back propagated, so it doesn't take much time. Okay, it simulates a kind of short temporality, while the other one, the back propagation artificial neural network, is responsible for simulating like memory or aspects of cognition that take a little bit more of time. So it is different. There are different temporalities between the different aspects of cognition and the brain. Okay, and it is interesting because all of this is related to the symptomatology of chronic pain. So nothing here is taken like for nothing. It is directly, or else there's a correlation of those aspects and the symptomatology of chronic pain, so the symptoms of chronic pain. Recently, an article from two Japanese researchers was used, this Bayesian model was used to reveal those neural timescales. This is interesting. There's also a kind of idea in the researches, more or less, that says that we could understand the the interception, this is the concept that I will talk about, through this idea of neural timescales, and more accurately with the Bayesian model. But I'll not talk about this. So this is very quick. I'll not take much longer, okay? The third part is about interception and allostasis in chronic pain. Those are two neuroscientific concepts, okay? Okay, so what is interception? What is allostasis? Interception is basically the constant interpretation that our body makes of the bodily signals. So we have a kind of, as I said, we codify the signals from the environment and pass them through our peripheral nervous system to the central nervous system, and it is interpreted there in the central nervous system. And what the thing is, interception says this interpretation offers a constant mapping of the internal states or the internal milieu. Okay, so how our body is right now is constantly being interpreted in the central nervous system, and this is the concept of interception. It is a map of how we are right now. And what researchers found in neuroscience is there are dysfunctions in interception. So the constant mapping that we do is dysfunctional in the case of chronic pain. So we do not, or not me, because I don't have the issue of chronic pain, but people with chronic pain have this issue of a dysfunction in interception, a dysfunction in how they see their own body. Okay, and this is linked to the pathophysiology and symptomatology of chronic pain. This is basically it. And now, allostasis is a kind of complementary concept here. In a recent article of 2024, Ibanez and Nordhoff. That's okay. Okay, thanks. If I'm taking much longer, you may tell, okay?
You're okay.
You're good. I'm okay.
He's fine.
Okay,
But
sorry.
It's almost 6:45.
Uh-huh.
Do you think you can finish in 10 minutes?
Yeah,
more?
sure.
Okay.
Sure. That's fine. So as I was saying, in this article of 2024, Ibanez and Nordhoff, Ibanez is actually one of the collaborators of our research. So it is interesting. It is interesting. He did this article with Nordhoff where they defend a kind of idea that in which allostasis interferes in interception. Okay, so what is allostasis? Allostasis is a process that is related to interception, a process in which a process that maintains homeostasis through a continuous interceptive response. So this allows an adaptation to present and future scenarios. Okay, this is basically it. This is the definition of it. So it regulates, in some sense, homeostasis, so through interception. Okay. Homeostasis, of course, is like basically the body self-regulating it, trying to maintain a stability in the organism. Okay, and there is a concept here which is interesting. This concept of allostatic overcharge. So this is where allostasis stops to work, basically. It stops to work. Or in the words here, there's a breakdown of interceptive allostatic networks. So the networks that are related both to interception and to allostasis. Okay, so the final part, or at least the fourth one. It's just this slide, okay? The Bayesian model. The Bayesian model for chronic pain. It is defined as it may be defined, okay? It's not well, it is a statistical neurocomputational model of chronic pain. Based on Bayes' theory, of course, this is why it is Bayesian and its concepts. So I'll not go deeper into the mathematical structure of this. This is not the point here. We do not go into this in our article, neither. But anyways, it is based in this hypothesis that the brain works in a kind of Bayesian way, in the sense that The brain works based on statistically simulatable, oh my God, it's a complicated word. Simulatable, okay, sensorial predictions. So our brain is constantly making predictions of what is going to come to us, what is going to be perceived in our environment. So this is a connection between the body and the rest of the world, okay? And those predictions in chronic pain are also dysfunctional. So a person with chronic pain may think that, well, what is going to happen here is something really, really dangerous. But in fact, it is not as dangerous as the person expects. This is why it is dysfunctional. Okay, so the last point, the generation of predictions is based on a back propagation model. So here, the sensory motor system that Nordhoff mentions is put in the discussion. Okay, so there are some bottom-up signals coming from the system that regulates the coordination between the senses and the motricity, or in other words, the movement. And there's also a relation of this to the top-down signals, so top-down, of the interoceptive allostatic system. So those systems actually inform each other. This is why it is a back propagation. It means that there's a recurrence. Okay. So to conclude, and the limitations as well. So to conclude, here I proposed a neurophilosophical possibility to understand consciousness in chronic pain, which is precisely through a post-illuminativist integration between interoception / allostasis and the Bayesian pain model. Okay, so we put those two concepts together and we make an integration, a neurophilosophy. Okay, here the two theses of the post-illuminativism are: one, partial unification, as I said. So this integration shows us new things about consciousness in chronic pain experience, but it is still based on interoceptive, allostatic, predictive, so all those concepts together, mutual constraints. So there is a constraint here. It is not as if the theory could function perfectly, putting the concepts of neuroscience and the concepts of computation all there. It's not like that. There are constraints on both theories so that they can be converged. And the partial displacement here says that this unified theory may displace folk psychological terms. So mentalist concepts may be displaced by our consideration in the special case of chronic pain. Okay, but what is the evidence for this? And this is the limitation. The limitation is that we need to empirically test this idea, this post-illuminativist model that we formulated. And this is currently being done by my collaborator in his doctorate. His name is Yuri. And well, basically he's trying to make an EEG test of three hypotheses. Okay, so he tests three phenomena. Okay, and there's also this weak evidence that there might be a structure putting together interoception, allostasis, and the Bayesian brain hypothesis. Okay, but it's weak evidence because it's a preprint, so we may be skeptic about this. Okay, the three hypotheses are there. I will not go deeper into this because this is really not my part in the work, in the article, but well, I think this is it. So the primary literature, as I said, I'm putting the basis of my investigation on the churchlands, on a new interpretation of them, and the work of Nordhoff. okay, and some neuroscientific articles related to both the triple network model and to the theory of Northoff. So this is basically it. Thank you.
We also have some expressions from the public, but don't go. Yes, please feel free. There is, perhaps if you allow me, if people want to write their comments or questions in chat, or we can also give them the screen that we can perhaps take a question here and a question in cyberspace. No?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Alisson, for your talk.
Thank you very much.
So, we're gonna have a Q&A. Si alguien del auditorio quiere hacer la pregunta en español, lo puede hacer en español y aquí vamos a transmitírsela al expositor.
Ou se alguém quiser fazer a pergunta em português, pode também, depois a gente traduz aqui para o inglês.
Claro, claro.
I
Por
think
favor.
we got it, either Portuguese, Spanish, or English.
Or English, doesn't matter.
Julián, por favor.
Thank you, Alisson, for that great presentation. Thank you so much. I would like to ask you.
Louder,
I would like to ask you.
yeah, just to make sure that the microphone gets your question for the 20 people that are connected.
Hey, so thanks again, Alisson, for your presentation. I would like to know how the post-eliminative materialism conceives equilibrium, the homeostatic equilibrium, because you define, well, not you, the definition you use of allostasis is conceived as a process to restore homeostasis through time, but more or less, no?
Through interception.
Through interception, of course. So I would like to know, how do you conceive that homeostatic equilibrium that the body wants to recover, let's say? Because I see two possibilities. One, the cybernetics possibility. The homeostatic state is a stable state understood in terms of a number of set points that the body must maintain. So more or less a physical equilibrium between some set points. And the second possibility is, for example, in the spirit of William Bechtel or Leonardo Beach or these researchers, homeostasis has not set points, not fixed set points, but variable set points, because of course, for a different organism in a different environment, the set point can change, and the important thing is the equilibrium of the whole organism, you know, like that. So I would like to know, how do you conceive that homeostatic equilibrium, and maybe if that two approaches that I have sketches may lead us to a different way to understand chronic pain. That was all. Thank you so much again.
So, well, the short answer is in the same way as Northoff and Ibanez. I really do not have like a very deep understanding of this homeostasis and those neuroscientific concepts. As I said, it is an investigation that is not only made by myself, but also by the neuroscientists, and this is the most important part of the article, I would say. I'm just interpreting what they're doing. And so this is the short answer. And in his idea, I do not think that allostasis and as you said, like the predictive processing consideration are not unifiable. What he's arguing is actually the opposite. He's arguing in favor of a unification of those concepts of interception / allostasis in the context of prediction. So this is the short answer, but he does not talk about chronic pain. And this is where comes my, or if you want, an original part of what we are proposing. So if you want to go deeper, I would say read this article of Northoff and Ibanez. This is my answer. I don't know if it satisfies you.
Oh yes, no, thanks so much again. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Julián.
Shall I read? the comment? Well, it's in Spanish, so maybe you allow me to.
Yeah,
To say it in English.
Please, Atocha.
So well, first, piece of information, this talk is being recorded, so if you would like to see the recording afterwards, we can send the link, and it's also broadcasted in YouTube. So Violeta Chavez, who unfortunately is no longer in the room, says in Spanish the following: Congratulations for such an interesting work. As a person with a rare condition and also a philosopher, I am so happy that these kind of topics are on the table or on the agenda. Now I have to leave, and I would like to listen to you later. So that's a
Okay.
comment.
Well, my comment is that I guess most of philosophers do have one neurological disorder or other. Here in this room, well, Atocha with chronic pain, David with chronic pain, and me with depression.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We are very much interested in pain, not by chance. Basically, there is Francisco Pellicer, Professor Dr. Pellicer, who raised his hand. So thank you for your comment, Alisson. Perhaps you would like to not share the screen so we can see Dr.
I don't really know how to do
Oh,
this.
I'll do it.
I don't want to.
I'll do it, and then please, Francisco, be ready to say something.
Thank you. First of all, well, congratulate to Alisson for the lecture. Voy a hacer primero la pregunta en español para todo el mundo y luego se la hago a él en inglés. ¿Necesitamos los postulados de los Churchlands hoy en día para poder partir de lo que tú estás partiendo? We need the Churchlands postulates as we speak for fundamental theses that you show us. This is the first one.
Okay, so do you want me to respond the first one?
Well, yeah, shortly.
Okay, so I think they are relevant. Like, yeah, I do not think that you can understand neurophilosophy without going to the foundings, to the founders and to the foundations of neurophilosophy. So neurophilosophy was a churchman's creation, formulation. It was not something done by Schopenhauer, as some other people say, and including Nordhoff. Okay, so he says like Schopenhauer was the first neurophilosopher. This is not the case. He does not argue in favor of conversions between. Well, it is a perspectivism. Anyways, it is necessary, and it is very simple to understand why. Without Churchland's contribution, you cannot talk about a convergence between philosophies and neurosciences. This is it. So there's no neurophilosophy without the Churchlands. I do not think it is reasonable to say that.
Just Alisson, could you look at the camera?
Here or there?
Camera there.
Ah, okay.
Thank you.
And the other consideration is we have a pathology that calls asymbolia of pain. So I feel pain, but I don't know what is it and where are in my body, and this is a very challenged problem to the consciousness problem about pain. What's your feeling? What is your point of view about this?
Well, very interesting that you mentioned this. Well, I think it can be explained by a dysfunction in interception, because if you think, well, I do not know where precisely my pain is right now, you are basically doing like a wrong or dysfunctional, not wrong, I don't want to be normativist here, but like there's a dysfunction in how you interpret your body. You do not know where it is. It is dysfunctional. And something that could maybe interest in you very much. I talked with Yuri about your idea of the von Economo nerve cells. And something interesting that he mentioned, interception is directly related to those nerve cells. So maybe our approaches or our ideas of understanding consciousness in chronic pain could be put together. This is interesting.
Well, this is part of the challenge. Thank you. Very well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. ¿Alguien más aquí en la sala? Carlos.
Why not?
Carlos, could you perhaps come and sit here so that the public can see that you are interacting?
A real person.
If you don't mind, if you don't mind, in case you don't mind, you can hide that.
Let me ask you something before.
I'm not a neuroscientist.
Sorry?
I'm not a neuroscientist.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the clothes. Why this clothes?
Just for the occasion.
Just on the occasion, I like to wear it. I like to wear it because I like to pretend that I'm a scientist. So, part of the character.
Down.
Part of the character. I do philosophy of science. I study a little science before, so I like to pretend that I'm still in the game. So that's the short answer, as you would say.
Okay.
Thanks again for the talk. I would like to join the congratulations of all people before me. I would like to push a little bit more on Francisco's first question, because though I thought both parts of the presentation, like the first one that was really long and the other three parts were both great, I still struggle to see the connection between the both. So I see the point in the first one, and I see the point you and your colleagues are trying to develop in the second part, but I still struggle to see the connection of both. So I think that's still like the insight behind behind Francisco's question. So I would like to just push a little bit more if you can help me clarify what is the
connection between the two.
Thanks.
Wow, thank you very much.
Yeah.
What is your name?
Carlos.
Carlos. Let's go.
What?
Carlos the scientist.
That's my nickname.
Muchas gracias, Carlos, el neurocientífico. Well, okay, so the connection between the two parts, the neuroscientific part and the philosophical one, is basically, it can be basically understood by the idea of the Churchlands of using artificial neural networks to eliminate the mind in some sense.
Okay.
Okay, so what we are proposing in our article is a new kind of, not a new kind of, well, we need to put this new model of this new neurocomputational model of mental disorders in general that are formulated by Northoff and other researchers. We need to apply it to the case of chronic pain. Okay, so this is the idea in the neuroscientific article. And the philosophical interpretation of it is what I'm doing here. So what I'm saying is, through this model, we could maybe eliminate some mental concepts, some mental phenomena of chronic pain. We can eliminate them and substitute them by a convergent theory, by a unified theory. But some other mental concepts, maybe you cannot. So tricky. It's a partial elimination. I do not know if you want me to speak more about this or
No, that we can talk later.
Okay.
10 minutes.
But is it a little bit more connected in your mind?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. Atocha has a question?
Yeah, well, thank you, Alisson, very much for your talk. First, just a comment for the audience. I think it would be nice that you clarified to us the if I understood well, you have two articles. One of them, the one I already know, and then the other one that you have with Darío, right? But I have a specific question that perhaps is a follow-up to what Carlos just mentioned. I can understand that you want to get rid of folk psychology, so that is not a problem. However, when you put in your conclusional limitations and you speak of the partial displacement, you say, this unified theory may displace folk psychological terms in the special case of chronic pain. Could you give us an example of one or some of these terms? I think this is what you wanted to get as an answer, perhaps.
For instance, in the case of kinesiophobia, which is one of the hypotheses that we work with, this concept is, we consider it as a folk psychological term, okay, a mentalist term.
Okay.
And we could maybe substitute it with this model. So this is one example. Well, I don't know if this satisfies you a little bit more, but it is basically a matter of testing the mental concepts, putting them under empirical tests,
Okay.
so that we can check if we can eliminate. So, for instance, the concept of thought. Can we eliminate the concept of thought in chronic pain? Can we eliminate, I don't know, the concept of memory in chronic pain, considering our model? This is a neuroscientific question. It cannot be like answered without the empirical test.
I see. Okay, that's
So
very interesting.
you may apply it to any concept, at least a priori, but a posteriori, maybe not. Maybe some concepts are not eliminatable. For instance, the concept of thought seems to be rather really important.
Of course, but you also said that it's not needed in the case of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
if I understood well.
Yeah, yeah.
And please tell the audience about your work. Perhaps we can when we have the talk on YouTube, perhaps we can put a comment beneath with those entries. But now that they are here in real time, maybe you can tell us the titles of your articles, and well.
So
Or if you have it in your presentation at the end,
no, because we did not yet publish the
I see.
the neuroscientific.
But at least this one.
Okay, so yeah, sure. So you just want me to read the name, right?
Well, yeah, the title, the authors,
Okay,
and where is it published? No,
It is not yet published.
Sorry, it is not yet published either. Sorry.
Okay, so the neuroscientific article or the neuroscientific part of my presentation is based on the article Interception and Predictive Coding in Chronic Pain. This is the title. And the subtitle is A Comprehensive Review in Clinical Perspectives of the Patient Pain Model. Okay, so this is basically it. And it is composed, or there's a collaboration between first Yuri, who was basically the idealist of the neuroscientific part of the article. And I am the second co-author. Okay. The third one and the fourth are Ibanez and her PhD student, Carolina Gonzalez. So they are from the Trinity College of Dublin. Okay, so the fifth one is Eduardo Sima. He's a neuroscientist who works with Alzheimer's disease. Okay, it's not his field. This field of chronic pain is not his field, but he is from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. And the last two ones are Mauricio Peña Cunha and Eduardo Luiz Gaziar Moreira. Eduardo is really important for this because he allowed me to make an internship, to do an internship in his lab.
Somebody who's late, but it's okay.
Okay. Okay. So Eduardo needs to be appraised here because appreciated because he basically allowed this whole research to be done by allowing me to do the internship, the neuroscientific internship in chronic pain. And Mauricio was the co-advisor, co-assessor. I learned this with Atocha, co-assessor of Yuri in his master thesis. So this is it. The master thesis is not about this model, but rather a preclinical, that is an experimental research with animal models of chronic pain, of neuropathic chronic pain specifically.
So you were the only philosopher in this.
The only philosopher.
The only group.
The only
Okay,
philosopher.
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me. I need to. Yeah. This is precisely why I separated the articles. This neuroscientific are just neuroscience, hard neuroscience, okay, this is acceptable. And I do the philosophy and separate it just to be able to communicate with them. The strategies of neurophilosophy. Okay, and the Churchland's interpretation is actually master thesis. So my master thesis is basically on the Churchlands. It is called, if I remember right, neurocomputational models as causal explanation of perception in Patrician Paul Churchland. And there's like a period of time between 1986 and 1992. And this is why neurophilosophy was founded in 1986. This is why I wanted to understand the first 7 years. What is going on this period? And what I found is people don't really understand what they're doing.
That's interesting.
And the article about schizophrenia was an undergraduate research financed by CNPq. It is from Brazil, the National Council for Research, something like that. Okay, I need to mention the financial institution. Yeah, the master thesis. Yeah, the master thesis is being financed by FAPESC, I don't know how to translate this. Fundação de Amparo à Pesquisa e Inovação de Santa Catarina, of the state of Santa Catarina. Okay.
Foundation for Research in the state of Santa Catarina.
Yes, something like that. Okay, and just to finish the article about schizophrenia, I call it neurophilosophy of thought in schizophrenia. This is
Sorry, you call it?
Neurophilosophy of thought.
Oh, I see.
In schizophrenia. This is it. And it is basically like an article, really tricky to explain what it is. But it is an article in which I use this thesis of differential metaphysics, and also the idea that there is a vagueness in the concept of thought in psychiatry, historically speaking. There are several definitions of what schizophrenia is and what a thought disorder is, and it is not unified. So there is a disunity of this, and also a disunity of etiologies, of pathogenesis. Also, the causes of different symptoms and different and the whole disease. It is not unified. So this is something that you argue, like in your articles. There is no concept of causality in a very direct sense. It is multiple. So I use this idea and also this vagueness in the term thought to argue. Maybe we should displace it. We should argue, well, let's eliminate the concept of thought in schizophrenia and substitute it by something convergent, by a unified theory of thought in schizophrenia, to understand it better, to make it. But I am not arguing that we do not think, that we cannot think, or people with schizophrenia do not think. This is
Of
absurd.
course, yeah, you want to eliminate the concept of thought.
Yes, understand it better.
And well, I think there's something else in the chat. I want to say that I recognize some names, some students from our philosophy of science program who are working on the philosophy of cognitive science. Also, some people from my previous seminar on the epistemology of the health sciences. So please feel free to interact with our speaker. Now we sort of exchange faces.
Perfect. And we have a question from the audience. Okay, it says, I want to know whether chronic pain may alter consciousness, and if this is possible, in which ways?
Okay, so well, this is something that is very simple to answer. Any person with chronic pain can answer this. Like the subjective experience is very different. Like you may read the whole book of David and you will notice well, there's something going on. There's a difference in how people perceive in chronic pain. You maybe this is a question for you, not for me. I'm not in my, I do not have chronic pain.
And please tell the audience, David, what is the title of your book?
Please.
Because I'm sure
We have a difficult to express the title in English. You know, it's like pain flesh is the verb, is the verb title. Carne doliente.
In Spanish, it's carne doliente. Wouldn't you say hurting? Hurting flesh?
Hurting, yeah.
I'm not sure.
No,
They,
it's a literal translation, perhaps,
Yeah.
but
I think in Portuguese it would be something like carne que dói. Carne que está doendo, que dói.
Yo tengo una pregunta. A short one.
claro.
At the end of your presentation, one of the last slides, you define chronic pain as dysfunction in proprioception or something similar.
I do not think so. I did not give like a definition of chronic pain, but
Okay.
I basically we could basically use the definition of the International Association.
Okay, but you say something like chronic pain is a dysfunction in proprioception, or you didn't say
Yeah, there is a dysfunction in
No? Did
Yeah.
you say exactly?
yeah there is a dysfunction in interception
Okay.
/ allostasis,
Okay.
and also on the predictions.
Yeah, but I'm wondering what kind of proprioceptive states or what kind of allostatic states, what is the specific to chronic pain in contrast with other conditions related with dysfunctions in allostasis or
Hard question. Hard neuroscientific question.
We were the
I
experts.
don't have a
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say anything wrong, so I'll not answer.
okay.
Just sorry for
Okay, no.
There's a follow-up of Hector, who wrote something on the chat.
Okay.
Maybe you can also see. it here.
Hector says, for example, some artists used pain for improving their works or as a way of inspiration. Is that true?
Yeah, of course. Pain here, I think actor means pain in a general conception, right? Like, for instance, Van Gogh, or the schizophrenic artists from I forgot the name, but it's a place in Germany. Like, they were basically responsible for the emergence of the surrealist movement. So it is completely true. It's completely true. I think that pain really influences investigations. And in my own personal experience, I think that the fact that I have depression really changed all my investigation, and everything that I wanted to do in philosophy was basically directed or revolved around neurophilosophy because of depression. I want to understand how I work a little bit better. And I do not think that like pure philosophy of mind or pure neuroscience may explain what I feel. So I think other people have the same opinion. This is it.
Okay, so,
Someone else?
and any other question from the audience? Some comment?
I want to ask something more.
It's your chance.
Please. I really want to know more about this thesis of differential metaphysics.
That's a very good
Walter,
point.
1999. May you offer us an example of this framework in action, please?
So it comes from a book which is called Neurophilosophy of Freedom of Will.
Could you repeat the title, please?
Neurophilosophy, it's in German, but
Okay.
the translation to English is Neurophilosophy of Free Will. But I do not free will. But I do not think that this is a good translation.
What's the name in German?
Neurophilosophie der Willensfreiheit.
Preguntas en alemán sí me queda más difícil.
So,
But maybe. Was it?
Neurophilosophie
For?
der
Yeah.
of Willensfreiheit. So Wille
Es como la voluntad de la.
it means will and freedom Freiheit. So freedom of the will. There's a reason for this translation of mine, which I do in a article that is already published. This one is published. Okay, I think one of basically I only have 2 articles that I publish. It's a problem of my own. See, even well, it doesn't matter. The article is called oh my god, I forgot the name. The idea of a neurophilosophy of Brazil. Neurophilosophy Brazil. Of Brazil. Of Brazil. It is not wrong. Of Brazil. The country Brazil.
De Brazil.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were thinking of depression or of.
No, Brazil. It is basically to understand. Yeah, it is basically to understand the freedom of thought. Another name for it is neurophilosophy of freedom of thought. So I wanted to understand the issue of free will and put it together with the issue of thought. How should we understand thought? And how should we understand free will according to neurophilosophy? And if we basically make a convergence, we can solve some issues of the so-called philosophy of Brazil, which is like dealing with our lack of freedom in thinking. So we basically think in a colonized way, and maybe we can solve this issue with neurophilosophy. So this is the point. But anyways, in the first part, I do a very deep, I would say, analysis of Walter's work, and the thesis of differential metaphysics is basically explained there. He tries to put this together, the neurophilosophy of, the concept of neurophilosophy, and also this thesis of differential metaphysics to make possible a convergence of different kinds of positions in the mind-brain problem with different positions in the free will debate.
Okay.
So like we could argue in favor of dualism and also of, I don't know, or compatibilism as Vita argues in favor of, but like he puts together the basic grounds of both, and he says, well, we can make a lot of kinds of neurophilosophy. We can make a neurophilosophy that is dualist, that is panpsychist or something like that. It is not impossible, according to Walter, of course. So this is the point of bringing this thesis. And the thesis basically means, as I said, for different mental processes, for like memory or thought or whatever, you may have a different relation between the brain and the mind. So there is not a good reason or evidence that there is solely one relation between the brain and the mind. What makes this meaningful? Why is there only one relation, a single one? Why is there not a multiplicity of relations? And this is, I think, something really more compatible with the idea of multiple causality in the medicine. So I really like this. I really think that this is something really better to as a basis to understand the mind. I do not think.
A metaphysics for processes of the mind, not even of illnesses. I mean, in philosophy, we talk of metaphysics of the world. Then maybe we can accept metaphysics of a single condition of a schizophrenia.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about metaphysics of processes.
Mhm.
Each process has its own metaphysics. So relationship between mind and body, if any,
Yeah, but you could
it's different. Okay.
you could also argue in favor of this.
Yeah, no, I'm just first trying to understand. Then,
To wrap my mind.
exactly, yes. We have another interesting comment here. It's already in English. Let me read it out loud. It says, Luque Dario says, as an artist with depression, it's amazing to know that not only it has impact on my work as a kind of melancholic signature of what to do. I think it says what to
I do.
sorry, of what I do, but also modifies the prism from where I see the world. Greetings, my friend, beautiful presentation.
So this Lucidario is the creator of the image that you saw, the image of the boat converging.
Okay,
He was the one who created the art
interesting.
for my master thesis. So I named the picture the hydrography of perception, hidrografia da percepção.
Ideografia. All right.
And there's a reason for this. Like the church ones use this metaphor of the mind as a river, and this is something that I really thought about. Well, how can we express this in some kind of picture? This idea of co-evolution. So his picture, his art, is basically a symbol of the idea of co-evolution.
Oh, very interesting. So, Lucas, thanks very much for joining us today. Let me leave the moderator to continue.
No. Bueno, si no hay otra pregunta aquí en la sala,
No, bueno,
otra pregunta, Carlos.
muchas gracias a los que vinieron, those who came in person. It's always nice.
Creo que tenemos una pregunta en...
Oh,
Verónica, vi que alzaste la mano, no sé si quieres hacer una pregunta.
sí. Por favor, si no te importa que te veamos, si no, podemos escucharte.
Es que tengo algunos problemas de conexión y por eso había como apagado la cámara. Y espero haber entendido la propuesta porque he tenido estos problemas de conexión. Y sé que mi pregunta es un poquito diferente porque está fuera un poco de las cuestiones sobre psiquiatría. Y voy a ver si me es posible.
Well, I think your connection is really not good at the moment. We just
Pregunta es un poquito diferente.
¿Puede ponerla por escrito, tal vez?
Verónica, no
Ok.
te estamos escuchando, no sé si quisieras
Sí,
poner tu pregunta por escrito porque no está funcionando el...
Yeah. And she said that she will try to phrase it in Portuguese. But...
Oi. ¿Cómo
Oi.
están voces?
We know we don't understand.
It's Brazilian, no.
Exactly.
Don't speak Brazilian, sorry.
La escribes, pero...
¿Con la cámara apagada sí me escuchan?
Sí,
A ver.
creo que sí. Let's try once more.
Ok. Minha pergunta também foi um pouco dos tópicos de psiquiatria que foram discutidos, mas eu estava me perguntando em relação ao síndrome de Takotsubo como um problema emocional profundo que não se quadra com essa explicação orgânica e fisicalista das propostas dos Churchland. ¿Bien? Oh.
So, do you know
Es que no
about
sé si
that?
me escuchan.
I do not know about this one in specific.
How good are you reading minds at distance?
She mentioned a syndrome that has a Japanese name. No, exactly.
I have no idea what it is.
Could
I
you
kind of
just
remember that it's a heart disease, but related to mental like states. They haven't found
emotional?
specific anatomical disturbance, but a correlation with emotional states. But I don't remember because I studied that.
Okay. I think I can answer without knowing the neuroscientific part of
Can
that.
I just say something else? The Japanese name, which I cannot repeat, sorry, it's the form of de una olla, and it seems that the heart takes that form, but with no apparent.
A form of what?
De una olla, of a big base. Como exacto. Well, más o menos, yes. And she's asking for that syndrome, but in any case, this is a syndrome that is characterized by its emotional of emotional origin.
It's like a heart attack, but without an anatomical damage, like a real heart attack or something like that. Like broken heart syndrome. They talk about that because literally that that's Takotsubo.
Okay. So, well, I think I can answer this just with the church one. So, like, if you take the beginning of my presentation, I argue in favor of the idea that the church ones do not think we should adopt a kind of naive physicalism. So they are not saying we should disconsider the idea of emotions or something like that. We can explain this syndrome maybe with a unification of the idea of emotion, the psychological one, this psychological explanation that you gave, with some physicalist data, with some neuroscientific theories, maybe, if there is any. But maybe not. And this is where the post-eliminative materialism comes. Maybe we cannot explain it with a neurophilosophy. There might be limits for neurophilosophy, and we do not know those limits yet. But I do think it is limited. The church ones do not think there's a limit between neuroscience and philosophy, but I do think there is. There is a limitation.
Okay.
Muito obrigada. Verônica.
Muito obrigado. Sorry, I was going to speak in Portuguese. Well, there is no problem, but thank you very much for your comment, Verónica.
Muy bien, si no hay otra intervención del auditorio aquí en la sala o en el auditorio virtual de la sala de Zoom. Muy bien, pues acompáñenme a darle un aplauso a Alisson.
Gracias por los simbolitos, todo el mundo ya dijo cositas. Many of them. So thank you again, David Fajardo, for hosting Alisson in his, I had it here, in his en su seminario, SUAFEM, pero el coloquio en particular, ¿no?
Sufrimiento en la enfermedad.
Sufrimiento en la enfermedad.
Do you mind if I say just the final words?
Of course not. No. So don't leave people. The speaker wants to say very briefly the last words.
Some last words.
Today.
You may finish.
Very dramatic.
My final words ever. Well, I will. Então, maybe in Portuguese, please.
Okay. We'll ask the AI to translate. Yes.
Gente, eu gostaria de agradecer muito os brasileiros e as brasileiras que estão me ouvindo. Todo mundo, do mundo inteiro aí, né? México, Brasil e não sei mais onde. Queria agradecer primariamente aos meus pais. Eu acho que a maior influência da minha vida foi a minha mãe para começar essa pesquisa. E queria agradecer ao meu pai também, evidentemente, né? Meu pai e minha mãe foram fontes assim inestimáveis de, de inspiração. E eu queria agradecer também a minha namorada Luísa, que acompanhou todo o processo. Nossa, vocês não têm noção de quão estressante foi para a gente lutando junto. Então, muito obrigado. E é isso.
Pues terminamos muy bien, muchas gracias a todos. Tuvimos 25, 29 asistentes, sobrevivieron 17 y la puerta se acaba de abrir para que nos podamos. Adiós.
Congratulations, Alisson.
Thank you.
O sea, nos volvemos así. No, algo. Let's finish. Ya cerramos acá.